Hello, my name is Damien Owens and I've written a book called Duffy and Son, which is about a father, Eugene, and a son, Jim, living together in Monaghan as bachelors, running a little hardware shop. There are some big birthdays coming up. Eugene is about to turn 70 and Jim is about to turn 40, and these milestones have set Eugene off on a little bit of introspection, and he started to wonder about his own life and the decisions he made, and wondering if there's anything he can do to stop Jim falling into some of the same traps. So I'm going to read a little bit of it in this bit. Eugene has turned extra contemplative. So here we go. It had been a strange day, and walking home from the coffee shop it got even stranger. As that old song had it, I stopped into a church I passed along the way. This wasn't a rarity for me, it was unprecedented. For one thing, I didn't believe in God. Smarter people than me had all sorts of carefully considered reasons for having no faith I knew. I just thought it sounded like a load of bollocks. The story. The questions that plagued me were the ones children had. If God made the universe, who made God? And if the answer was that he didn't have to have a maker, then why did the universe? Either things needed makers or they didn't. You couldn't have it both ways. Also, God loves us like a parent loves his children, but he'll burn us for eternity in a lake of fire if we don't suck up to him enough. He narrowed everything you need to know about morality to 10 simple commandments, and half of them are reminders about how great he is, and so on. There were two ways to look at it. One was that these were silly questions. The other was that religion was so obviously a pile of old shite, even kids could see through it. I took the second view. I'd gone to Mass when Jim and Eleanor were small, of course. Everyone did in those days. But funerals, weddings and the like aside, I hadn't set foot in a church in 30 years. St. Joseph's was not the main attraction for Monaghan Catholics. That honour went to the grand cathedral that overlooked the town from the south. The cathedral was a Jeroboam of fine champagne. St. Joseph's was the house white. It was a small church, pleasant enough to look at, not at all fancy, not showy. By its side, crouched like a pet dog, was the little hall where Annie gave her salsa lessons. I passed it regularly, never giving it much thought, never giving it any thought. Today, something gripped me as I went by. I didn't stop for a little ponder first. I didn't even slow down. I marched right in, as if this is where I'd always been going. The door swung behind me, paused, then shut tight with that rubbery sucking sound. I wondered if a priest would appear out of nowhere, like an assistant in a shoe shop, asking what he could help me with today. For a minute or more, I stood there, barely breathing, not daring to take a step, feeling like a trespasser. No one emerged. I had the place to myself. Back in my mandatory mass-going days, my favourite part of any church was the little bank of votive candles. It had nothing to do with their purpose. I liked the way they looked, all these delicate flames dancing when something disturbed the air. My heart sank when I saw that St. Joseph's had done away with the real thing at some point and replaced them with little battery-operated lights. Grim. No romance about them, no mystery. I started up the aisle towards the altar, but the clicking of my shoes made me so self-conscious that I ducked into the third row and sat down, feeling large and awkward. The entrance to St. Joseph's was right on the street, so the silence wasn't perfect. I could hear an occasional muffled laugh or shout, the muted hum of passing traffic. I found it pleasant and started to relax. Maybe this was the whole appeal, I thought. It wasn't about mass or confession or communion or any of the other crap. It was about having access to a nice building where you could sit and think without anybody bugging you. But that made no sense. I was currently enjoying the peaceful atmosphere and I wasn't exactly Padre Pio. You didn't have to sign up for the whole thing to get that. No. The appeal was what I'd always thought it was. Nobody wanted to be erased by death. They wanted to keep going. They wanted a sequel. I'd been sitting there for 10 minutes or so, still not sure what I was up to, but not in a hurry to move, when I heard the door swish open behind me. I didn't turn around. It felt like the wrong thing to do, rude somehow. When no one went by, I assumed that the new arrival had taken a seat behind me. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw a bent old woman creeping along at about the same rate fingernails grow. She was as silent as a ninja. When she drew level, she turned her head in my direction and nodded. I nodded back. About half an hour later, at least that was how it felt, she took a seat a few rows from the altar. There was no sitting in silent contemplation for this one. She, eventually, manoeuvred herself down onto her knees, clasped her hands together, and got to work. It was possible, I supposed, that she was praying about something minor, a lost set of keys, a grandson doing his driving test. I doubted it. She was here for the main event, the please let me live forever thing. After a few minutes, the door opened again. This time I did turn around because I forgot you weren't supposed to. I recognised the new arrival, although I wasn't sure of his name. Michael something, maybe? An old man, naturally. He was much more sprightly than the old woman, and fairly raced up the aisle before sidling into the second row and getting to his knees. Whatever enjoyment I'd been getting from the experience was gone now. Having company, however far away, had ruined it. I went back to feeling like a trespasser and wondering what the hell had made me come in here in the first place. I'd no sooner decided to take my leave than the door opened a third time. There was a ruckus. I turned to see a schoolboy, maybe 12 years old, standing half inside and half out. Other youthful voices shrieked behind him. There was laughter, jostling. "Chucky our law," the boy roared, ducking outside again before he'd even finished the phrase. A child's dare. I assumed my companions would be outraged by this intervention. It wasn't easy to picture the old woman leaping into action, but I could imagine Michael chasing the boys, or at least following them, down Park Street so he could give them a clip in the ear. Neither of them moved a muscle. Why? Was this sort of nonsense par for the course? Were they used to it? Or were they so deep in prayer that nothing could disturb them, like that Asian monk who set himself on fire for some reason? I had no idea. I also had no idea how shouting crap in a church could be fun for a kid, no matter how bored they were. Little shits. Laughing themselves sick on a corner somewhere now, I supposed. We were the three old people, no doubt, in their retelling. Not the two old people and the man who wasn't getting any younger. The three old people sucking up to God every chance they got because they were going to be dead soon. I still didn't know what I'd gone looking for in there, but I knew I hadn't found it. I got up and left. That's that. Bye.